Welcome, everybody, to the Hot Route for Week 10 NFL DFS main slate on this Thursday, November 11th. First and foremost, happy Veterans Day to all the vets out there and their families. Thank you all for your service and continued service to those who are still serving the country. We are a little early this week. We're doing this first this morning, so knocking out early with me as always. Ryan, how you doing this morning, Ryan?
Doing good, man. It's a nice day out up here. Probably go to the park later with the wife and son, so it's a good day. How you doing? I know you guys are dealing with a little cold or something. I hope you guys are all feeling good.
Yeah,
Better.
we're gonna a couple more days of little quarantine. The oldest got COVID from school, so we're gonna test Saturday, I believe, and see if we are. Well, none of us have it except for him, but just we had to pull our youngest out of school because he became a close contact immediately. So we've had kids at home and staying here all week. Been not so fun at times, but is what it is. I'm sure everybody deals with it sometime or another. Everybody's doing well though, so hopefully by Monday we'll be up and at 'em again.
Good.
Yeah, starting to get a little cool weather. We had a system come through last night. I think it was a similar system that actually hit the golf tournament this morning. So now it cooled down. It was 75, 80 yesterday, and this morning it was 40, 45. So feeling like you guys up there in the north this morning have a little coffee going. Big week this week. Interesting week. Interesting slate overall. First, you can join us. Use the code HOT, 20% off. Any package includes a 7-day free trial. All sports have been on fire the last several weeks. Big week this week with NFL, college football, PGA, NBA going hot and heavy right now as well. Little break on NASCAR until February. We have one more week of PGA. So if you join today, you'd basically get all the showdown content, although that's going to be, I don't know what we'll do with that. I can't imagine they're going to get the first round in today because we are getting dark here in the Central Time Zone about 5:30. So with their 2.5 hour delay, I bet it rolls over. So that's going to make it a little complicated, but I will have it for the weekend and then have the final tournament of 2021 full field tournament next week, the RSM Classic. You can check all that out for free and then decide if you want to stay on for the rest of NFL and college football. Plenty of that going on throughout the fall, UFC as well. Rate and review us on iTunes. I said I was going to do the giveaways on the Hot Route. I'm going to do them on the coin flip later since we did this pod first to give you guys a little more time to get your entries in. All you have to do is rate and review us on iTunes, take a screenshot, and send it to me either in the GC Warrior Room Slack or on Twitter. I will do those giveaways on coin flip this evening. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube. In the comment section, tell me your favorite wide receiver not named Devontae Adams this week. On Underdog right now, you can deposit up to $100 and get $100 free. Use the code GUP. The link is in the description. Daily pick'ems for all sports, even PGA now. NFL Best Ball back in May. You can get up to 20x parlays, mix and match the sports. I really like that feature. Tonight, they got the Thursday Night Rumble, Jam, and Face Off for NFL, NBA, and NHL. If you want to go get familiar with the site, get used to it before we get hot and heavy on best balls next year. Get that deposit in now. Get a free $100. Start building our bankroll. We'll be knee deep in best balls by the time we get to next summer. Notes for this week for me. Quick notes. We'll dive in. 11-game slate, 4 double-digit spreads. 2 road teams are double-digit spreads. We got the Bills again. We saw how that went last week. 9 of the 11 home teams are favorites this week. We haven't had that in a while. Typically, that either goes one way or the other. It's a super chalky, everybody covered win type week, or we get a bunch of crazy upsets. Coming off last week, which was one of the weirdest Sundays I've seen in quite a while. It'll be interesting to see how this goes. As far as the slate goes, just kind of breaking down into it. Normally, I've already done the coin flip now, but haven't quite yet. But I did my prep work this morning. It really seems like a straightforward slate, which sometimes can be good and sometimes can be bad because I think, and you can tell my first run of ownership, a lot of the ownership seems to congregate to the same spots. What are your first impressions as you break down the slate? Not only from cash, you got that covered with the article, but just in general.
Yeah, same feeling. Like there's a lot of easy spots to go to if some things break that way, like Zach Moss not passing concussion protocol, then Singletary becomes the chalk. Uh, you got Nick Chubb doing COVID, so if he doesn't pass that, then you have D'Ernest Johnson, who's the same price as Singletary. So a lot relies upon these two cheap running backs, and if they'll be available or not. So it's one of those slates where we will have to wait until Sunday morning and see who's cleared to go. But I agree with you. I mean, it's either you're like a lot of people for cash, at least for what I'm playing, they're going to pay down for those running backs and maybe go up to a Devontae Adams, or if they're not available, there are some clear running backs on this slate that they're priced up there, but are in just awesome positions to do really well. So then you pay down at wide receiver. So we'll see how it breaks down, and we'll talk about it here.
Yeah, not a lot of again, when you get home favorites like this, it tends to lead towards spots that feel good, especially when you got good teams, quote unquote, that are the home favorites, and that's the case in a lot of these games. Some pivotal points in the season for a lot of these teams. We'll get to a few of those. Seahawks type deal where I don't want to say it's like a make or break game, but there are several teams that they can't get too many more losses if they want to try to make a run. We'll kick it off with Falcons Cowboys. If you're following along out there, we go in order of the cream article if you'd like. Falcons getting 23 points, Cowboys 32 points in the implied team total market. High scoring game. Cowboys looking for a bounce back week. I personally think it's a get right week for Dak. I think he'll come out, look sharp, play well. Not as high on Zeke in general this week. I really think he should have excelled more last week, and I don't know. I mean, he's looked good at times this season, but I mean, anytime Pollard's in there, I don't really see a downgrade to it. So at 7,000, because of some of the other running backs, I don't know if I get there as easy, but I do like Dak in the passing game this week, and don't mind sprinkling pieces of the Pitts, Patterson, maybe Gage to be different. I don't think many will go there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I do like Zeke kind of as a pivot to those other high-priced guys, especially coming off a week where he burnt everybody. He's now gone 3 straight games without a touchdown after scoring, I think 6 in his first 5. He's going to score again in a multiple TD games, never, out of the question for him. I think the problem last week was just like he averaged over 5 yards a carry. The problem was just like they just couldn't sustain drives or get in scoring position or made mistakes, just things like that. So it's hard to make a lot of those mistakes against the Falcons defense. They're really bad. But if you notice too, I put everyone kind of in a tournament play here because I can't really narrow anything down for cash because I agree with you. I think they can beat the Falcons pretty much any way here. So if Dak, goes out and throws 3-4 TDs, I would not be surprised. And if Zeke, punches 2 in, I'm not surprised and has 100 yards rushing. So it's pretty much, I think they're going to do what they want. And then on the Falcons side of the ball, Patterson's price is kind of getting up there now. So I think he's becoming, he touches the ball quite a bit. He averages like 14, 15 touches a game, but he's almost to the point now where he kind of mixes it between receiving and rushing. So he almost needs to get into the end zone to pay off at this price. So I couldn't put him in for cash, but I do like him. He's got a pretty high ceiling in any game, and why not here? So I like the game overall. I just, not for cash, be more for tournaments, plugging them in and hoping you hit some ceilings.
Yeah, I think it's the highest game ownership projected by me right now. Obviously, that can change a little bit. There's 2 clearly above the rest of the field. It's this one and then the Chargers-Vikings, followed by the Buffalo game, but that's heavy on the Buffalo side. I agree. I do. There are a few teams in the league where it gets, because of the way some of the offenses are becoming so spread out and the randomness in it, you get a little bit tough to – Cardinals is one, right? Especially the weapons side of it. A lot of teams don't have that go-to guy. They have several of them that they trust, and they don't want the defense getting in. That's what makes like a Devontae Adams so valuable, especially when Rodgers is there, because there's no question where he's going with the ball. But you got to pay it. You got to pay up for it. So there's risk reward with all that. Yeah, I would say I'm a little bitter with the Zeke deal. I mean, I had a team in the 153 man, I had in everything. My main team last week, we talked about it. I had Lamar at quarterback, Chubb at running back, ran it back had Peoples, who I said if he started, I absolutely loved last week. Ran it back with Jefferson, from the Viking. Had all the right pieces, and I had Zeke sitting there, and I was like, if he could just do anything. Still made plenty of money on that lineup, but man, if he'd have had just, above expectation game, it could have been a special day. So I agree. I probably have a little bitterness there. I'll probably have to look back at that. He's definitely viable for tournament.
You're not the only one. That's the thing. Like everyone got burnt. So like, I just love how that's going to drive his ownership down. So, why not go back to him here? I did see too, just to note for anyone listening, Gallup should be back this week too, and he's like 4,000. Not saying like, he's a smash play, but if you're going to sprinkle in these cheap receivers, I don't see why you wouldn't go there in a game where he can definitely beat this secondary.
Yeah, and that would hurt a Wilson a little bit, just a tad. I don't mind the Cowboys defense you mentioned either, 3,000. That'll be one of mine that are in the pool option. I try to tighten that up each week. Certainly don't mind that. For some reason, I've seen a lot of the Cowboys D isn't as good as we thought it was. I don't really get that after one game. Where the offense couldn't do absolutely anything. I certainly think they still have plenty of talent with Parsons and Diggs and all that, so I'm not jumping off that bandwagon at all. Next game, Vikings at Chargers, 27.5, 25. Chargers 2.5-point favorites. This will be a interesting game from all the side stuff going on. You got the Cook stuff, which I believe he'll play. I don't think that's an issue in my mind. I think perception and reality sometimes on that stuff is the Twitter world versus what really goes on. I hold judgment until we get all the facts on anything. And so I don't think there's any way he gets suspended immediately because it sounds like there's more of a case that he's a victim. But neither here nor there. Obviously, if he's out for whatever reason, Madison's probably a lock at 4,500. You got a lot of COVID potential issues. You got defensive beat up for the Vikings. It seems like a great game for the Chargers, especially at home. A lot of distractions for the Vikings. Do you risk anything with the Vikings with all this stuff going on, or just load up on the Chargers and move on?
I love Cook here. And like you said, if he's out, obviously Madison's going to be I like Madison at 4.5 more than both running backs, Johnson and Singletary, who are 47. So, but Cook is one of my favorite plays on the entire slate here. So I'm all over him this weekend. I'm hoping that for some reason, that'll keep his ownership down.
Yeah.
I don't know if that'll happen, but if it does, I'm pumped about that. And then Eckler's in a spot to me like Elliott's in, where no one's going to play him. His price is up there. He just killed everyone last week, but he still touched the ball a ton, and he can beat this defense here. The thing that hurts Eckler sometimes is just, Herbert's throwing the ball 40-plus times a game. So I think my favorite leverage spot in this is picking Mike Williams over Allen again if I'm in tournaments. So Allen for cash, Williams for tournaments. Williams has had to hit that, huge ceiling in half the games this year. If he brings that back, you're going to get him at such minuscule ownership, and he's, the cheapest he's been all season.
Yeah, I definitely would pay attention. We'll talk about this Sunday morning as things are coming out. Is the only thing that would worry me with the Vikings is the cluster injuries or COVID stuff. The O lineman went to the hospital yesterday, but he's been double vaxxed, so can easily. And they said it. I don't think it had to do with COVID. I can't remember if it does or not. But even if it does, the close contact tracing type stuff can get in there, and all of a sudden it may look like they have a bunch of, the starters we look at, running back, wide receivers, but, if they have 3 linemen out, that's a big factor in what we think will be a great running game against the Chargers. I think the later the news goes on Cook, that the perception will be everybody is building and thinking like he's not going to play. And so to your point, I think you come in really low owned, be a great, sneaky play, especially at that price. I would rather it be Cook than Madison, because Madison's going to be a smash that everybody jumps to automatically. Then that becomes almost a pivot point. Not in cash. You got to play him in cash, but tournament, I probably wouldn't play Madison very much because everybody's going to go there. So I definitely agree with that. Herbert, I like Herbert. I think he could, obviously he was a key piece last week to a lot of tournament teams in that late slate. Came through for a lot of guys. At home, Vikings, like you said, I guess my potential could be like a blowout scenario, but I still think if they do that, he's getting his, kind of like Brady seems to do, even if it's Eckler. A lot of it comes in the passing game, so I don't mind that either. That's one of the games we'll keep an eye on as we get closer to Sunday. with all the injuries and potential news for sure. Next game, two teams coming off a bye week. Buccaneers at Washington Football Team, 30.5 for the Bucs, 21 for the Washington Football Team. Bucs go on the road after a bye. I mean, my note was Brady should smash, but everybody knows that. So how do we get different? Is there any skins viable at all here? Is there any, especially coming off a bye, I think, the Bucs are going to be rested, ready to go. Gronk could possibly be back. Where are you at on this game?
Yeah, I'm just with you. I think Brady is in a total smash spot here. It's like, and I wrote about it in the next game too that we'll talk about, the Seahawks-Packer game, but it's like this week you get what I think will be like an angry Brady and an angry Rodgers. And like when those guys are out to prove something or you might have pissed them off, that's when I want to target them. And like Brady had a bad game, has a bye week, comes back. I mean, I think he just puts it on these guys. And then same thing with Rodgers in the next game. We'll talk about that then. But yeah, I don't know. It's with no AB again. Looks like he's going to be out. Gronk looks like he's going to be out. It's pretty much, Godwin and Evans there, and it's easy to figure out. They have Tyler Johnson's like 3,300, I think. I mean, he could be a flyer. That might be one way to get different. He catches a long one, and then he's on his way, crushing for 3,300. But I just that's why for even cash I put Brady and Godwin in there, and it's just like I don't worry about them at all. Fournette might be the way to get different if they, find themselves near the goal line quite a bit and punch them in a few times. But other than that, I mean, maybe McKissick I had as a tournament play. That could be a way to be different running it back. He's hit a ceiling in like half the games this year. So he's got a super low floor, so never in cash. But when they get behind and they start throwing to him, he can hit a ceiling there and approach 20 fantasy points.
Yeah, I mean, the Bucs are going to be one of the highest owned teams in general this week. So if you go there, you certainly want to, have your pick and choose how you try to get different in those teams. The nice thing is, as you just mentioned, if Rodgers plays, which again, he's not eligible to return to the team until Saturday, I don't think that's going to hold him back from starting. If he's clear to play or whatever, he's going to start. He doesn't need practice. He knows that team well. I think Rodgers and Wilson, to your point, will help keep some of that, chalkiness off of Brady, because I agree with you on the Rodgers thing. We'll get there in a second, where you can still take your chances there, because I think people will, go, oh, everybody's going to have Brady, and they pay down, to Rodgers there. And I think there's a crowd out there, and I faded Josh Allen last week. It worked out for me, but there's a crowd that'll go back to Allen and say he's going to smash against the Jets. So there's enough options there that is keeping the Brady not as just what he should be. I think he should probably be one of the top two owned between him and Rodgers if they're both playing and both good to go. So that's a positive. Don't be afraid to get overweight on there. I agree with all that for sure. Speaking of that game, Seahawks at Packers, 22.75, 26.75. Potentially both quarterbacks making a return. Rodgers off of the COVID. Russell Wilson off of the injury. Wilson is making it, that's for sure. He's going to start. We assume Rodgers will be eligible to play. We won't technically know that probably till Saturday, maybe even Sunday morning. I'm assuming he's going to play. Absolutely my number one play of the week. It's the one thing I wrote down. I think he absolutely goes ham just to prove a point. And just I don't know if he destroys Seahawks, because the Seahawks are going to have to score. This could turn into one of the best fantasy goodness, to quote our boy Bobby Burger, games of the week. I love all kinds of things about this game. So anything, do you think the perception out there will like that too? Or is this going to kind of go under the radar?
I think it might go under the radar a little bit. Definitely more than it would like heading in, as a marquee matchup. If we already knew Wilson and Rodgers were facing off against each other, this game would have been talked up. I bet the total would have been a little bit higher too, and then that would have raised all the ownership. We'll have to see how it looks on Sunday. If it's announced Rodgers is going to play, and then all of a sudden the total pops up like 3-4 points, people are going to notice that, and then I think the ownership will go here. But I think there's ways in this game to be a little different. And one being, if Rodgers is back, then you go with. I mean, I don't have to say anything about Adams. Then we both really like Adams here. If we love Rodgers, then that's his guy. But I do like MVS. He's only 3,500 now, and he's back out there with Rodgers. So. I mean, he's got a ton of air yards. Like if he catches just one, and if he catches two of them, you're just off and running. But Seattle's 30th in sack percentage. They're 24th in pass DVOA. They're bottom 5 in pass yards allowed per game. I mean, this is definitely a spot where if Rodgers wants to, and I do think he'll want to here, he can throw for over 300 yards and, 3-4 TDs. And like you said, if he just smashes, it's hard for me to think that Valdez-Scantling doesn't get just one of them. And that's kind of all you need at that $3,500 price tag.
Yeah, and this is the time of the year. This is one that I marked that, and I'll do this in my final thoughts. So if you guys have noticed, I basically put all the ranks and ownership out Saturday night because there's enough people that want to at least get their game plan together. And then Sunday morning, basically after inactives, I kind of give my final thoughts, updates, and all that in the article. So you're not waiting till last minute to see everything. This is one of the games I have marked for potential weather. It's that time of the year. It's Green Bay. Right now, small chance of snow in the morning. Highs in the high 30s. Potential type stuff. Nothing major, but a little chilly. I don't know how that may affect like a Wilson. Of course, he played at Wisconsin, so probably not a big deal there. But we will have to keep an eye on weather, moving forward at this time of the year, especially up there in the north. Where you guys are, but it won't bother me from a Green Bay standpoint at all. Do you have a favorite out of Metcalf and Lockett, or is it still a coin flip deal?
I like Metcalf.
With Russell coming back, I should say.
I just like Metcalf more every single week. I mean, this guy finds a way to crush even when Geno Smith's in there. So I just think he's an absolute stud. Probably in the majority there. So like Lockett, because he's so hit or miss, anyone looking at a box score is probably not going to click Lockett. Right. They'll click Metcalf, but Lockett can hit in any tournament. But Metcalf is I just think he's safe for everything. He's a total stud.
Yeah, and you're not really getting a big price savings on Lockett. Like some weeks we've had them 700, 800, 900 apart.
Yeah, 6,800 for DK. I mean,
yeah,
that's crazy to me. I mean, he eats no matter who's throwing the ball.
I haven't gotten into my full injury dive yet. Is Alexander any close to returning for the Packers?
That I haven't looked at. I did see today, though, that Carson was activated for the Seahawks. So for anyone that was thinking about Collins or anything, I wouldn't anymore. And I actually don't know. I didn't look at Carson's price, but that's something that and the Jair Alexander news, something I'll update underneath the article Sunday morning when we get it. Definitely two things I want to check out.
Yeah, because if Alexander's back, then we kind of have to look back at historical and see if we think he mans up somebody, because that could easily make it a better target. Sometimes they just let him play the side. Doesn't matter who's over there. But I know he was close to getting back, but I can't remember when he was eligible to come back for sure. So that's something definitely this weekend we'll get into. Next game, Bills 30.75 at Jets 17.25. Another Bills double-digit road favorite. Did not work out too well for them last week. They look absolutely lost. Turnover city. Where you're the Bills guy, so I'm every time I get off one way or the other, I go the wrong way because I thought I had egg on my face. Thought this team was gonna destroy this year after I thought they would have a step back. They have some terrible losses. I mean, but then when they win, they look great. So I don't know. I would assume in a bounce back spot. Again, they got to go on the road, but Buffalo, New York Jets isn't that big of a road trip, but you would think they'd want to show up and do something well. White looks serviceable. I was massively underweight on him in I think it was Monday night game, maybe Sunday night game, whenever he played. So when he got hurt, that was a help me, but I mean, I agree with you. I think he helps like a Crowder and all that, serviceable, potentially down a lot. Obviously, if Moss is out, I think Singletary's a great price, assuming like Madison isn't playing or something like that. Where do you go this week in this game?
The Bills to me are like they're like the Chiefs, but with a good defense. Like they go as Mahomes goes. Mahomes making terrible throws, they don't look good. And the same thing with Josh Allen. If he's throwing the ball accurately, it's hard to stop them. And when he's not, I mean, the offense just looks terrible. So, like, you watch him and you're like, what the hell are you doing? So, yeah, like in that aspect, I mean, they're hard to figure out. The good thing for the Bills is that he's better more times than not. And in this game here, I mean, the Jags D is not good, but the Jets D is, like, laughable bad. So I mean, if they don't succeed here, then there's some real questions. I just think they can crush the Jets here, as does Vegas, and I know that's an obvious thing to say. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, they go as Josh Allen goes. If he has a good game, they're going to crush. It's hard to play him in cash. Again, I just don't like paying that much for him here. And he spreads the ball around to everybody, so it's tough to pick. I mean, you definitely want to try to capture that in a tournament or something. But Devin Singletary is the big cash guy here. If Moss misses, he's only 4,700. He'll get all the work, goal line, pass down work, and that'll be the super chalk. I think Crowder will be low owned. Everyone will see like that red number 1 next to his name. Bills, not giving it up to wide receivers this year at all. But Crowder's kind of in that slot role. It seems like he's going back to his old ways of just, he's the main check down guy, slot guy. He's getting a lot of targets. When Mike White started, he had 9 targets, 8 catches, in Mike White starting. So, if they're playing from behind, I don't mind that for only 4,800.
Yeah, and I certainly think it could be cash viable. I mean, the one thing to point out is that the Bills, given the scenario of the amount of turnovers and everything, for them to only give up 9-6 was the final, right? Is crazy. I mean, they should have lost. Any other team, they would have lost by 3 touchdowns type of deal. That's how bad the offense played. So don't think the Jets are going to come in here and go run all over the Bills or anything like that. That's not going to happen. It's just a matter of, can the Bills get going? The only problem is, especially for me, who's an anti-Bill guy to an extent, is they didn't get any price discount at all for. I mean, so 79 Allen, 75 Diggs. I'll go Rodgers, Adams, or Brady, Godwin, Evans all day long over those two.
Yeah, I agree.
Floor and ceiling to me. I mean, maybe ceiling they could get up there. But again, if they start smashing the Bills, probably run the ball. I don't know. I just don't like that the pricing. There was no discount at all given at all. So probably a pass for me in general. And I hope a lot of people get on them tournament wise. Now cash wise, I'll leave that to you. And I agree with Singletary and Crowder for sure. So I just don't like that this week, because I think there's some great options out there that have much better game environments. Agreed. Jaguars at Colts, 29 to 18.5. Colts is one of my favorite teams in the NFL, not named the Cowboys. Super high on them preseason. Maybe, up and down so far at times. Titans get the win without Henry. That's probably not ideal for the Colts' chance at the playoffs. I just hope we get the over team total that we hit after the Wentz injury. I do think they're becoming week in and week out better and better and better. No price increase for Wentz here, which I absolutely love. I think he's too cheap at $5,900 against the Jaguars. I know what we saw last week, and maybe that keeps some people off of him. But he's one of my best value plays of the slate at $5,900. Jonathan Taylor, my only notes there was, is he too high now? When we start looking at Taylor, 81. We'll get to Kamara later. But Najee's 79. Of course, he's not going to get any adjustment. They played on Monday night. I do like Dan Arnold still. I do think Trevor has a big game potential in him somewhere. I don't know if it's this week per se, but you could see a lot of garbage time if the Colts get out early at home. I like the Colts a lot this week. Talk me through where you're at.
This is one of those games where, we normally have one a week where I just absolutely love it. And then I love to see your ownership, your game ownership that you put out above your ranks. And this being seemed like it was in the bottom half of ownership. If that's the case, then yeah, I'm all over this game. I mean, I love it. I love so both of these defenses are like a pass funnel defense. So if each team can throw on each other, hopefully they're in scoring position quite a bit throughout the day and put up some points. They're like 8th and 2nd in run DVOA and dead last and 26th in pass DVOA. And they're bottom 5, both teams, bottom 5 in yards allowed per pass attempt. So they just give up big plays. I love Wentz, like you said, at 5,900 in my first cash build that I did, just like initially this morning. Wentz was my quarterback in it. So I feel safe with him no matter what here in this matchup. And then I love Lawrence to have that nice breakout game here. Colts have given up the most passing TDs in the league. So this is Lawrence's time here. I would think that he can do well in a nice bounce back spot for Marvin Jones at only 5,800. Taylor, like you said, 8,100. He is getting priced up there. But I mean, he is producing. The Jags run D has been decent, but they've also given up 10 TDs on the ground. So that's all Jonathan Taylor's been doing is scoring. So I like them all. I actually don't even mind Wentz, with Taylor in some lineups, just because he can catch some passes and get in there that way as well. And it's a way to be unique in this game. I think a lot of people will go Wentz Pittman because Pittman's still only 6,300. And yes, I do love that a lot, but it'll be very popular. Like a Wentz Taylor or something like that. You take the savings at QB, they can both hit. Over the last since week 4, Wentz, Taylor, and Pittman have averaged 21, 28, and 18 DK points in those 6 games. So they can be played together. That's how I just love this game.
Yeah, I think, and that's one thing I wrote down was I think the Wentz Pittman will be popular. One way to be different would be to go Lawrence Taylor because I don't know how many people will. So you still get the cheap quarterback and you pay up for the Taylor. And then run it back with whatever. Maybe you go Lawrence, Taylor, Pittman, Arnold. If Arnold's your favorite, you could throw Marvin Jones in there certainly. But I love Wentz this week. Clearly, you're right. If you just go Wentz Pittman, you're going to be. I'd say you're going to be with like a lot, but a lot of people just aren't doing that. We think people think like that, but like you said, they're my, bottom half of the total game ownership is 63%. Colts are kind of up there a little bit, 48, but I got Wentz at 3 to 5% ownership type deal. So you don't have to get too cute when you're willing to take on a slate like this where you got Brady, Rodgers, Josh Allen. If you're willing to go Wentz, you're already being different than a lot of people. So it's okay to, like you said, it's okay to go Wentz, Taylor, Pittman, and then pick your favorite Jag, Arnold, Jones, whatever. And maybe in a large field MME, get you some Trevor Lawrence lineups in case we get, somewhat of a sneaky shootout. We've been pretty on spot on our sneaky games. This is definitely a candidate this week. So I agree with all of that. Saints at Titans, 24.5, 21. Saints off of a absolute dud last week. Titans with the no one saw it coming destruction of the Rams on the road without Henry. Not sure I could have pictured that. Not that many could. Was it fool's gold? Was it win one for the Gipper type deal and now we come back to reality? Or do we think the Titans can maintain and win one at home here against the Saints? Not a great – if you bring in the handicapping aspect that that's how I start my basis of the week, the Saints would be an absolute play from this week. You got a team that – major win on the road, wasn't supposed to win. Then you got a Saints team that absolutely laid a dud. The world's going to bet the Titans here at home, -3, 3.5. So the other side of it would be the unique side. I don't really like the game in general from a DFS standpoint. Maybe some pieces, but where are you at in general?
No, I'm the same way. I just for DFS and fantasy, I just don't like this game. DFS, especially with the prices being, Kamara's at 82, AJ Brown's up to 7,800. I mean, they're priced through the roof here. And I don't think it's, I think it'll be a slow game. I don't know why the Saints start Trevor Simeon. I mean, we've already done this dance. Like, we've seen it in the NFL. He's not a good quarterback. They put Taysom Hill in there for 2 throws, and he completes both of them for first downs. It's just so much better when he's out on the field, playing quarterback. I don't get it. But for this game, I mean, for that reason, I kind of like the Titans defense here for 2,600. In my first initial cash build too, they were the defense I threw in there. I don't typically like to pay up in cash, but I also like them, defense. You can say any defense is a tournament play, but I do like Titans D. They're only 2,600. And they've been showing out lately. I think they're like 3 straight weeks, double-digit points on DraftKings. And then other than that, I mean, Peterson's in a shitty matchup. He's got a good price. But like you said, I don't want to spend too much time here because I don't really like the game. It's a game I'm going to largely skip over. And if I miss it, so be it. But I don't see it exploding.
Yeah, I was really shocked. A.J. Brown was one of the prices this week that I was surprised by. Like, I know he's had a good year, but I didn't warrant him as 78 when
he's up there with Adams.
Yeah,
makes no sense.
There's no world I'm not going to pay $100 more for Adams, or for that matter, this week $100 less for like a Jefferson if that game is a healthy script. But he'll probably be low owned because he's squeezed between some guys. But yeah, no thank you for that. For me, I agree. And Kamara again. And I said this last week, it's a stay away with me for the Saints until we figure out what they're going to be going forward because they got to make a decision. and maybe Hill gets in there. If Hill was starting and playing, I wouldn't like the Titans defense because I don't think he's going to put much risk out there, and he probably won't get sacked a lot. But absolutely, though, the Titans would be my favorite D this week with Simeon, at least starting. We don't know how long he lasts. Pieces at best for me. I think it's a low-scoring game. Browns at Patriots, 23.25, 21.75. Nailed the Browns game last week. We talked about what would probably happen, and it did. They go on the road. Patriots are looking quietly good. Solid fundamental football that Belichick does. Getting into November. Again, potential weather issues. I hadn't looked up this game yet, but, cold probably, at least. But the Browns are used to that, so that's not a big deal. It seems like a ugly, old school 2017-ish game could be. I don't really like a lot. Maybe, like you said, if Chubb is out because all he has to do is 2 negatives before Sunday. But if he was out, I think Johnson's too cheap, regardless of the matchup. And then I still, large field MMEs, I've been throwing Jacoby Myers in there just because of the target share. But there's not a lot here for me at all. What about you?
Yeah, nothing here really. If Chubb is out, then I do like Johnson, just the price and the role that he'd be in. Because Felton is also, we got to watch him. If he's out, he's got the same deal as Chubb, the COVID thing. So, but I guess they're both vaccinated, so they could get back in time. But if not, Johnson's really the only man standing then at that backfield if they're both out. So that means he'll get all the pass down work too. So that makes me really, really like it for 4,700 behind this Browns offensive line that can bully almost any team. So that'd be the only place to go. Browns defense I mentioned as well. I just think they can get to a rookie quarterback and frustrate him. Could be a couple turnovers, sacks, things like that there.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, I definitely wouldn't mind. That'd be a good pivot off I think the Titans will be one of the highest on Ds this week, so that wouldn't be a bad pivot. Panthers at Cardinals, 17.25 for the Panthers, 27.25 for the Cardinals. We assume Kyler will be able to play this week. No guarantee yet. I don't mind this game. I think the Cardinals at home could have a little bit of a blowout situation. I kind of wonder if they don't hold Kyler out one more game. Kyler hates missing games, so I don't. If he can play, he's going to go. He's also, in some markets, the betting favorite for MVP. I don't think you can miss 2 games in the season and keep that. Not that they'd rush him back just because of MVP, but yeah, I don't think the Panthers are going to be able to do much against this defense. So I agree with you on Connors, although I'm not afraid to get some mini stacks pending what we get with the Kyler news on the offense, and probably don't want any Panthers at all, not even McCaffrey.
Yeah, I'm out on McCaffrey this week. And Connor, though, I absolutely love Connor in this role. I think the Cardinals running back role is like a dream role. It's kind of like a McCaffrey role if only one guy's handling it. Because like Connor and Edmonds averaging like 11 or 12 DraftKings points a game. Connor, 15 or 16. Now there's only one guy doing both of those things. I mean, that is just a massive – that is what you get with Christian McCaffrey or Kamara from last year, things like that. 6,300 is a stupid price for that when he's a 10-point home favorite. He should be at least $1,000 more here. And we already knew Edmonds was out. I don't know, with the pricing, it is what it is. But Connor, 6,300, very hard for me not to just think he'll be super chalk and just, pretty much my first man in cash. Because he's like got the Najee Harris type who's, 7,900. You're getting that much usage as a 10-point home favorite, just like Najee is, with a higher total for, $1,600 less. So I love Connor here.
Yeah, and I mean, the one thing I'll add, and I'll talk about him a little bit in some of my articles, talked about him a lot in the preseason. Dude was an absolute beast at Arizona State. You saw one of his runs last week. Eno Benjamin, 4,400. Definitely in play for large field MME type stuff. I know you got Singletary there for $300 more and all that kind of stuff, but I still think they want to utilize a couple running backs. I think you're dead on that Connors will be the majority. but Benjamin could pay off, especially if they get up big and let him, take a couple series in the fourth quarter. This dude's a beast, and you go back and watch the highlight. That dude, he ran and just trucked him. He was amazing in college. I was glad to see him get some run. So I just, MME flyer only. I'm not saying let's load up on him, but I definitely at that price would keep my eye on Benjamin for sure. All the rest of it, I agree with you. I do like the Cardinals D. Don't know if it's a pay up at D week, but man, they could actually smash this week a lot. So, and they're not like that 4,800 we've seen on some spots like last week with the Bills or something. So definitely viable. Eagles at Broncos 20.5, 23.5. Low scoring total on the road, altitude. I don't have many notes there. I agree with you. I do think maybe you could get back to a naked Hurts situation. I have a note to go check to see if he's played much in the altitude. I normally don't like QBs and stuff their first game doing that. He's mid-pack for me, quarterback. 6,500, though, makes it tough because there's so many other options. If he was cheaper, maybe I'd take a chance, but maybe a flyer there. I agree with you on a lot of the Broncos stuff. You seem to be a little higher on the Broncos than me. I assume it's not. Obviously, I know it's not just a reaction from last week, but where are you at in general on this game?
Yeah, it's kind of, I got a lot of them listed, but it's more like you got to just pick a guy. You know what I mean? Like, so I've got Gordon and Javonte listed, but really you're just going to want to pick one and hope that's the one that gets in the end zone or breaks a long run or has a long play, something like that. They've each done it at times this year. Williams more with a long run. I think Gordon had a long TD catch earlier in the year. Or maybe that was a run. Either way, they can either both break a long play on this. Fant should be back. I like him in the offense to kind of, over the middle, things like that. He's only 4,300. I feel like his price would be a little more if he's played the last few weeks. And Judy is priced lower than Sutton again, which is weird because since he came back, he's just the clear number one. So for 5,300, I like him for cash. I like him for anything. He's a number one wide receiver in an offense that, yes, the Eagles have been better against the pass this year. And I think that happened. So I mentioned earlier, the Colts give up the most passing TDs this year. I believe when the coach came over from Indy, he brought the secondary coach with him. So that might be why the Eagles have improved there. But Judy, to me, is still 5,300. That's too cheap for a guy who could lead the team in targets every single time out. And he can make some big plays too. And for the Eagles, over the last 3 or 4 weeks, their run rate over expectation is like through the roof, leading the league. Like they seem to just take the ball out of Hurts' hands now. And I know it's been some scripts where they can run more and try and keep the lead or in a closer game, but it just seems like the offense itself has changed where now you're seeing like 2 backs carry the ball 10 to 20 times each. And that's like what the Niners do to keep the ball out of Jimmy G's hands. So it's like, it just seems like a completely different offense to me. So Hurts kind of scares me here.
Yeah, and if Devontae's out, which he's questionable at best right now, that even hurts him even more because that's kind of like a security blanket. Obviously Goddard's there, but Smith would be another blow to him. It'd be a risk, but the way Hurts gets there is kind of how he's done it all year. It'd be late garbage time, third, fourth quarter, running, all of a sudden winds up with 90 yards rushing, couple touchdowns, maybe through the air passing. Not something I want to get all in on. I mean, these games are last on our slate for a reason. And I agree with the running back stuff. I still think Javonte Williams is just an absolute stud. And Gordon's played well because I think he's had to because he knows that if he don't keep it up, Javonte's going to take that role.
I saw a stat too. Javonte, he leads, I think it's like forced missed tackles. He leads every running back in the league by a large margin. The guy's a stud.
It just pisses. Last week, he took him all the way down the field, and then Gordon gets in to get the touchdown. Yeah. I'm like, Jesus, it just frustrates me to no end when that happens. But it is what it is. He's going to be a stud. Like if you have a dynasty league, he's a guy I'd be trying to target. People aren't high on him yet, or they may be low on him because he's a split running back situation there. I'd get him and try to keep him because he's going to be big in this league for a while. Last game on the slate, Lions at Steelers, 16.75, 26.25. Bad football team against a team that is not great in my opinion, but getting by barely. The last couple weeks, Harris is good. I don't know if 7,900 keeps you off of him, but against the Lions, boy, I don't know. I don't. It's going to be it's a great matchup for him. If you're going to pay up this week, he's probably the one you pay up. I'm not too high on anybody from the Lions. For the most part, this is a one-off pieces for me. I'd pluck 2 or 3 guys in my big MME pools, and that'd be it. There won't be any stacking or anything. What about you?
Yeah, I just love. I like Najee here, 7,900. He's number one in expected, PPR points amongst all running backs. It's just a massive role, and this is the game where you want that massive role. The Lions just can't stop anything. This is the best chance he'll have all year for 100-yard 2 TD rushing game. I mean, this would be it. So and then he catches all those passes too. So I love him. Hard. Like if I was looking at cash here, I love Jonathan Taylor as well, but I like Najee more for $200 less. And that might be because, as of right now, I'm leaning Wentz at quarterback, and I don't really want to pair those two in cash. But Najee, I mean, like I said, number one expected fantasy points for PPR. That's the game we're playing. I just got to roll with it in a matchup like this. And the only other person I could never look away from is Deontay. I mean, just in that massive role again. But he seems to be a lock for like 15 to 20 DraftKings points a week. And then you just hope that he gets in the end zone, and that's where he, you can't really break a slate, but he can get over 20 and just crush his price. So he's always in that like high 6 range, and 68 I think is more than fair for his role.
Yeah, probably MME only for me on him. Definitely viable. Steelers are just notorious if they can get up on a team, run the football, let their defense, control the game, get out of there 21-3 or 27-10 type deal. They're going to do that. Unless you see the Lions pushing this game or pushing the Steelers in some way, shape, or form, it takes a little bit off of Johnson. The nice thing is that, Ben does look for him when they need to. But it's a great spot for Harris. He's one of my favorites on the slate, no doubt. He's going to be one of the higher owned. I hope the price kind of keeps people off of him. I think a lot may have to do with, like Cook, Taylor. Taylor's good to go, but what happens with Cook? If they're all in there, I mean, you can't get them. It's hard to get them all in lineups. There's not just a ton of smash value yet. We'll see what happens. So the ownership couldn't get too far away because I would say he's got a great spot. I mean, you talked about who just talked about being like McCaffrey. Oh, Connors in a great spot at 6,300, but Harris is getting involved in the passing game, and if the running like this week works, 7,900 is too cheap for him, right? You start Harris, Connor, and go from there at running back. You got plenty of options on your slate, so I definitely like Harris a lot.
I think a lot of his ownership will have to do with too if the two $4,700 running backs are available. A lot of people are going to go down there and then pay up for the guys like Brady, Godwin, Evans, Adams, Rodgers, all those guys that are higher priced. There. So if the $4,700 guys aren't available, then a lot more builds might go up to the Taylors, Najees, and then pay down at wide receiver.
Right. So, yeah, exactly. And that's, the Cook deals, it falls in. That's exactly what I mean. Because if Madison's available, then that even makes it worse for that situation. People are going to jam Madison and go, like you just said. The Vikings are the late game. I don't know if that hurts us or helps. I think we'll know clearly before Sunday, personally, if there's any chance of Cook not playing. More concern for me is, are there offensive linemen that get put in protocol because of the one that's out? That kind of stuff is my biggest worry for the Vikings, because if they get a cluster of COVID outs on the O-line, it really hurts what we think should be a great running spot for the Vikings, regardless who the running back is. Steelers are the early game, so no worries on that one. That's it. Only 11 games this week. I say only 11. Still a good slate. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I think I pretty much, made a good point of who I'm looking at, to start the week here in cash, and I'll put any updates at the bottom of the article. I do apologize if anyone heard my dogs barking throughout that here. I'm just trying to make it work until my office is done downstairs. So, that's it. Should be a fun slate, and just make sure you check everything, Saturday morning, Sunday morning.
Yeah, the news that we need is concentrated this week, so that helps. So it's not as much craziness. You can kind of game plan on the 2 or 3 key things you're waiting on. I say it's a straightforward slate. None of these are hard, none of these are easy to dissect and get through, but it's pretty clear where people are probably going to go. And as of now, not a whole lot. I think the biggest value that could open up potentially is Madison, which I would just probably fade in MME type stuff. He's probably a lock at cash. I'll let Ryan make that call, but it's a good week where you can game plan and kind of know exactly where you're going. Then Sunday we wake up, see what's going on, see what, Rodgers is probably another big one. We assume he's going to play. Kyler, we assume he's going to play. But we need to know those things because that definitely can flip a difference because I didn't even look what Colt McCoy's price is, but I definitely, in that game, I don't mind going back to Colt. Looked serviceable last week. He's probably still, I'd imagine, in the 4Ks somewhere, maybe 5K max. So, we'll obviously have you covered all the way through the weekend. Don't forget, Monkey Knife Fight, 100% match up to $100. I will have my NFL and college football plays of the week on Coin Flip later. They got everything: UFC, NFL, college football, PGA, hockey, esports, NBA, MLB. Go get signed up now. The link is in the description. The listener league is in the description. Let's get that filled. 200 entries allowed, 3 max per person. My Cup with Gup Thursday Night Football Showdown podcast will be out around lunch today. Coin Flip out later this afternoon or this evening. College football main slate DFS breakdown. The Read Option podcast with Bobby Berger will be out Friday morning. And don't forget, use the code HOT. Get 20% off any package right now. 7-day free trial. Get you all the way through the start of next week's PGA as well. Come check it out. See what we're all about. And then if you don't like it for whatever reason, you can cancel and you never get charged. Lots of green screens winning. Hit the 398 to 1 PGA hit last week, plus the Wolf 50 to 1 first round leader. Would have paid for many first subscribers fees alone, just that 1 week alone. We're going to try to finish out this golf season hot, and then we'll be back in January for that. Some massive upgrades and changes coming up for NASCAR, golf, and everything else in the spring. It's going to be a good spring as we march to the Masters. Appreciate you guys joining us. I will be back later on with Cup with Gup to talk about tonight's Thursday night football game. Have a blessed afternoon, and we'll see you later.
Recording stopped.
Nice. Yeah, I found